It was all for revenge, to settle the score for her dead father, my fiancé. The woman who once loved me to her very core. Not only did she hire someone to rip out my vocal cords, but she also had the tendons in my wrists severed. She even had me beaten until my internal organs began to fail. In the end, she dragged me all the way to the highlands. She forced me to prostrate myself 100 times a day, knocking my head against the ground to pray for her father's soul. What she didn't know was that her father wasn't even dead. This whole thing was a setup, a grand conspiracy. Now that I'm a mute, I have no way to explain what really happened. With my organs failing, I don't have much time left. I don't want the girl I love to spend the rest of her life drowning in guilt and regret once she learns the truth. So, I'll take this secret to my grave and leave her forever. Right now, inside the Sky Burial Service Hall in the Highlands, my wrist tendons have been stitched back together, but even the slightest movement brings a piercing, bone-deep pain. Location, Yutian. Master, my organs are failing. Every day I spend breathing is a living hell. Can you help me find peace through a sky burial? I promise I'll have the money ready within a month. A sky burial was the promise Scarlet and I once made. We were supposed to grow old together, and then return our bodies to the mountains and rivers as a final offering. But now, I'm the only one who remembers that vow. In the temple, only one master understood my sign language. He placed a compassionate hand on my head. Seeker, come back in a month. I will see you off on your final journey then. Tears streamed down my face. After bowing deeply, I clutched an amulet and walked away in silence. I had only gone down a few steps before I was drenched in a cold sweat. Just moments ago, Scarlet had grabbed me by the hair and forced me to bash my head against the ground 100 times. My forehead was a bloody mess. My voice was gone. My wrists were ruined, and my body was shutting down. But none of that physical pain could compare to the agony of being humiliated by the person I loved. But it's okay. In 1 month, I'll be gone for good. My only worry is how this broken body of mine is going to scrape together the fee for the sky burial. Just then, the roar of a Maybach echoed nearby. Scarlet was back. She rolled down the window. Ian, she said coldly, your filthy blood is all over the ground. Don't pollute this sacred temple. Scarlet's cruelty made her feel like a total stranger. I looked at her beautiful profile, remembering the first time we came here. Back then, Scarlet was dressed in traditional Highland robes, adorned with amber and jewels. She leaned against my shoulder. Her eyes were full of devotion as she whispered, Ian, I'll love you until the sacred snow on these mountains melts away. A gust of freezing wind snapped me back to reality. I saw a man step out of Scarlet's car, Mason Cole. My cousin, the man who had replaced me as Scarlet's fiancé. Mason had the face of an angel, an innocent, golden boy, look that hid his true nature. Cousin Ian, Mason said with a mock-sympathetic pout, didn't you kill Scarlet's father? How did you end up in such a pathetic state? Poor thing, even though you're beyond redemption. We go way back. I convinced Scarlet to come pick you up. Mason acted like he was helping me up, but he secretly dug his fingers into my freshly stitched wrist tendons. The pain was excruciating. I felt the tendons snap again. This time, there was no fixing them. But without vocal cords, I couldn't even scream. I could only look at Scarlet with pleading eyes. Please, save me, just like the time I saved you. When I was 8, my mother remarried Scarlet's father. On the very first day, a 5-year-old Scarlet poured boiling water on me and used a lighter to burn my mother's hair. Later, Scarlet fell out of a vehicle at a safari park. As a tiger opened its jaws to kill her, I was the one who jumped down to save her. I ended up with 12 deep puncture wounds from the tiger's teeth. Afterward, Scarlet's father had an alloy knee replacement put in for me. Scarlet had personally engraved her name on the metal. It was a mark of what she owed me. Back then, it wasn't enough for her. She stayed by my side every day, her eyes red with guilt as she cared for me. She changed my bandages and brought me food daily. Over time, we fell in love, and we went public when she turned 18. On her deathbed, my mother held Scarlet's hand, whispering for us to grow old together. But then, while all of North Hill was broadcasting the news of our engagement, Scarlet's father and I both vanished. Scarlet searched the world for us, eventually finding me in a criminal den, beaten within an inch of my life. She held me and sobbed uncontrollably, but I could only twitch in her arms, coughing up blood. With my tendons severed, I couldn't even gesture to her. She was devastated, until she saw a flickering video on a nearby monitor. The footage showed me, supposedly killing her father to save myself. In the video, I was smiling as I stabbed her father to death to entertain a group of psychopaths. Her father's blood was so bright. The laughter of the deviants so piercing. Scarlett's blood turned to ice. She held a knife to my throat, wanting to kill me right then. But she didn't. She wanted to keep me alive to force me to atone for her father's soul. Since then, she has tortured me in every way imaginable. I have no way to explain. And now, her fiancé was crushing my ruined wrists, bullying a man who couldn't speak. Mason? Let go of him. Scarlett stepped out of the car and shoved Mason's hand away with a look of pure hatred. My tendons hadn't been completely torn for a second time yet, I gasped, making a faint hissing sound. I looked at Scarlett, feeling wronged, but she immediately pulled out a wet wipe to clean Mason's fingers. Ian is filthy, she said. You'll get a skin infection touching him. After meticulously cleaning Mason's hand, she tucked it into her pocket. Then, while I was off balance, she suddenly kicked me hard in the knee, the one with the prosthetic from the tiger attack. It gave way instantly, and I tumbled down the steps, my wounds reopening. My failing organs shuddered from the impact, but I didn't even have the breath to scream. I heard Scarlett say to Mason from above, "He killed my father. Every day he's alive, I'll make sure it's a living hell to appease my father's spirit." I rolled to the bottom of the hill, unable to get up, covered in blood. I let out a bitter, tearful smile. I couldn't speak to tell her the truth, that her father had kidnapped and tortured me. My hands were too damaged to sign that the murder video was a staged setup at gunpoint. Her father had massive debts and used his death to disappear, making me the scapegoat. But even if Scarlett knew, what difference would it make? I'm terminally ill. Not even a miracle could save me. Once I have the money for the sky burial, I'll fulfill our old promise. My soul will return to the snowy plateaus. Like a dead dog, I was dragged into the car by Mason. Mason sat in the passenger seat and said softly, "He's still my cousin." I couldn't bear to let him freeze to death out here. Scarlett drove, stroking Mason's face. "My little golden boy is so sweet, so kind. And that athletic build of yours, it's quite useful, too." Mason smirked shyly. "Stop it. Scarlett, cousin Ian is right here. You're making me blush." Suddenly, the car jolted as it hit a ditch. The tires spun in the snow. Scarlett slammed the gas a few times, but the car wouldn't budge. She sighed impatiently. "What a pain. Ian, get out and push." It was freezing in the mountains, and I was only wearing a thin shirt. Every organ in my body felt like it was being pierced by needles. Moving was a struggle, let alone pushing a car. "Move it. Have you been a mute so long you've forgotten how to understand English?" Scarlett barked the order again. I forced myself to open the door. The freezing wind rushed in, making me hiss in pain. Mason looked concerned. "Maybe I should help push?" "No. You stay right there," Scarlett said, holding him down by the shoulder. "I want this sinner to do it alone." I felt like I was dying, but I remembered I needed the money for the burial. I looked at Scarlett and painstakingly held up one finger. Surprisingly, she understood. She pulled out $1,000 from her bag and slapped it against my face. "This much could get me a yak. You don't even have the strength of a beast. You're getting a bargain." But I wanted 10,000. I couldn't sign it, and she wouldn't have understood anyway. I could only pick up the money and crawl onto the ice to push the car. I fell several times, my nose bleeding. My wrist tendons, which Mason had already damaged, were now being sliced by the internal stitches as I strained. It was pure agony. Scarlett watched in the rearview mirror, her eyes seemingly shimmering with unshed tears, while Mason gave a chilling smirk from the other side. Suddenly, Mason turned and pinned Scarlett against the driver's seat, kissing her passionately. Lost in the moment, Scarlett forgot the gas and brake, letting out a lingering moan. In the howling wind, the car suddenly rolled back, trapping me underneath. While my former love was kissing my cousin, the car vibrated violently. Scarlett's cries grew more intense. I didn't want to know what they were doing inside. My heart felt like it had been pierced by a bed of nails. When the vultures take me during the sky burial, will it hurt this much? I only hoped that my final release would be swifter than this endless torture. Cold and broken, I blacked out under the car. When I woke up, I saw the sterile white ceiling of a hospital. Scarlett was changing my catheter bag. Just like when we were kids, she didn't seem disgusted by me. She was only 6 back then, and she had spent 4 months hand-feeding me. She used to blush bright red when she had to wipe me down. Once Scarlett cared for someone, it was hard for her to change. Unfortunately, once she hated someone, that was just as permanent. Seeing me awake, she slammed the bag down onto me. "I'm not paying for a nurse for you. I can't believe you're still alive," she said before turning and walking out. Doctors and nurses soon swarmed in. As they recorded my vitals, They gossiped under their breath. He's the one who killed the old Mr. White. Ms. White is being too kind, just letting him live. Exactly. Mr. White was such a good man. This guy was like a son to him. And his son-in-law. How could he be such a monster? This is his karma. She shouldn't even bother treating him. I'm a mute. I couldn't say a word in my defense. The frustration built up until I coughed up a thick clot of blood. Notify Ms. White. Issue a critical condition notice. For several days, I was on the brink of death. 3 critical notices were sent out. But Scarlett demanded they keep me alive at all costs. She wouldn't let me die. She insisted I receive treatment at night so she could keep me by her side to torment me during the day. One night, after she dropped me back at the hospital, I snuck out the back door. I went to a high-end club, the only place I knew where I could make fast money. The manager recognized me instantly. Well, if it isn't Mr. Rivers. I heard you came back from Southeast Asia crippled and mute. What a shame. Scarlett hadn't told the world about the murder. She didn't want to hand me over to the police, but not because of old feelings. She just thought prison was too easy for me. But even knowing I had fallen from grace was enough for people to enjoy a good laugh at my expense. The manager's fake, judgmental smile didn't faze me. I pointed to a flyer for male models, then pointed to myself and made a pleading gesture. He understood immediately. He tilted my chin up, inspecting me. So, the great Ian Rivers is willing to sell himself? Fine by me. Get him a uniform, the silver chain cutout set. And don't forget the muzzle. I stood on the stage in the provocative silver chains, performing an intense dance. Even though every muscle screamed in pain, I bit my lip until it bled, refusing to fall. My performance drew a frenzied crowd of female fans. The club's revenue skyrocketed, and the lines to get in stretched around the block. I was just earning money, selling a skill. I wasn't doing anything dirty. I wanted to keep my dignity for the sky burial. However, on the 3rd night after I went viral on social media, under the hazy lights and deafening music, Scarlett sat in the VIP booth, swirling a glass of wine, her face dark as she glared at me. Within minutes, the manager was trembling on his knees before her, holding a tray on his head to serve as her personal table. Scarlett set down her glass. She beckoned me with 2 fingers, then roughly grabbed the iron chain around my neck. Come here. Isn't this what you love doing? I have a dozen friends here. You entertain every single one of them, and I'll give you 30,000. Without a moment's hesitation, I nodded. I needed that money too badly. Scarlett's friends cheered as they circled me. These rich socialites held bottles of wine worth hundreds of thousands and poured them over my head without mercy. Oh, poor little mute. No parents to speak of. You were so arrogant when you turned me down back in the day. Now look at you, everyone's favorite toy. Scarlett's friends forced drink after drink down my throat. I didn't resist, even when they took turns slapping me or kicking me to the floor. They even forced me to use my broken hands to make heart gestures and stubbed out cigarettes on my chest. I didn't react. My humiliation was filmed and uploaded. The once untouchable prince was now a plaything. The likes hit 1 million instantly. Scarlett's grip on the sofa was so tight she nearly tore the fabric, her eyes burning with a rage that seemed ready to consume everything. She was the one who loved to torture me. So why did it make her so furious to see others do it? Enough, everyone out. Scarlett suddenly smashed a wine bottle against the speakers. Shards flew everywhere. She changed her tune. Ian doesn't deserve such expensive wine. You all are being too soft on him. Are you afraid to actually hurt him? A trail of blood ran down my face like a waterfall. I looked up drunkenly, meeting Scarlett's jealous, hateful eyes. Right then, Mason suddenly pulled Scarlett into his arms. Don't be angry. Scarlett, let me help you relax. He took a sip of wine, then pressed his lips against hers, straddling her lap to feed her the wine mouth to mouth. They were so brazenly intimate that everyone else looked away. Scarlett really knows how to live. These golden boys are so much more fun and obedient. Mason is so clean. Not like this mute Ian, filthy and pathetic. People began to toast Scarlett and Mason, cheering them on. Photos of the two were even displayed on the big screens. The scene was lively, reminding me of the time Scarlett confessed to me in this very place. Back then, a shy 18-year-old girl in a princess dress had brought out a handmade cake. Ian, I want to be your girlfriend. Do you like me? Her innocent voice seemed to echo in my ears. I had frozen for a long time, thinking my secret, dark feelings for her should never see the light of day, only to realize that she had loved me all along. If she didn't love me, why would she risk her life to drag me out of that tiger's den? Memories and reality blurred together as I finally collapsed amidst the smell of liquor and the sound of cheers. Suddenly, A woman lifted me from the floor and dragged me back to a private room. She placed me in a warm bathtub and said gently, "Take a bath. I'll help you throw up in a bit." Through my hazy vision, I recognized her, Serafina Moon, the owner of this club. She was a powerhouse who navigated the worlds of business and politics with ease. I wanted to ask why she was helping me, but I couldn't speak. I followed her lead. Most of the alcohol I vomited was mixed with streaks of blood. With my organs failing, I couldn't process food, and drinking was essentially suicide. Serafina sighed as she watched me. "I'll send you abroad. You need to hide from Scarlet White." I shook my head and, with trembling fingers, dipped my hand into the bathwater. I traced 2 jagged words on the edge of the tub. Sky burial. Serafina stared at me in shock. Speechless, she eventually drove me back to the hospital. "Isn't your flight in 10 days? She asked. "Going to the Highlands alone won't be easy. Call me if you need anything." I nodded. I had no intention of bothering her further. Back in my ward, I pulled several $1,000s in cash from my pocket, the tips Scarlet had thrown at me for my performance. This should be enough to cover the sky burial fees, whether from exhaustion or pain. I soon drifted into a heavy sleep, but in the middle of the night, I was slapped awake. I looked at the livid Scarlet standing before me. I shrank into the corner of the bed, confused. "Ian, killing my father wasn't enough? Now you're trying to kill Mason? He's your own cousin." I stared at her, mouth agape in disbelief. Scarlet grabbed me by the collar and hurled me off the bed. "You're the only one who disappeared from the club. Who else could have sabotaged Mason's brakes but an automotive expert like you? He crashed trying to protect me and has multiple soft tissue contusions. He's unconscious right now. Did you think that if he died, I'd come crawling back to you? In your dreams." Scarlet dragged me across the floor, like a tattered rag. I was dragged all the way to Mason's hospital room. My wounds were raw, and my organs were rotting from the inside. Scarlet grabbed my hair and forced me to look at Mason. "Mason? Look at him," she whispered. Mason's hands trembled. "No, Scarlet. Cousin Ian probably just did something stupid because he was jealous. Don't hit him for my sake. Just send him to prison so he can reflect on his life." I let out a silent, bitter laugh on the floor. So that was Mason's grand plan, to frame me so I'd be locked away. He knew Scarlet couldn't bring herself to execute me. She was still paying for my treatments. After all, Mason wanted me in a cell to get rid of me for good. Perhaps he hoped that killing a father and then attempting to kill a cousin would lead me to the death penalty. I tapped a fruit knife against the metal bed frame and handed the hilt to Scarlet. My lips clearly mouthed, "Just kill me." Then, I pulled out the temple amulet. My message was clear. I wanted to go there. Scarlet's eyes widened. She took a step back, unable to believe her eyes, refusing to take the knife. "Don't think I won't do it. You want to go to a temple? A monster like you, even God wouldn't take you." Mason got up to close the door, moving with suspicious agility for someone injured. He climbed up and unplugged the security camera. "Scarlet, think of your father. If you don't want blood on your hands, I'll do it for you. I can't stand seeing you wake up from those nightmares, crying that your father is demanding revenge." Mason took the knife and plunged it into my stomach. I collapsed without a sound, lying in a pool of blood, my breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps. Scarlet's pupils shrank to pinpoints. "Mason, what have you done?" She moved to check my wound, but Mason lunged forward and threw his arms around her. He sobbed pathetically. "Scarlet, I killed someone. I'd do anything for you. I'm so scared. Please don't leave me." Scarlet stroked his head. She looked down at my twitching body and suddenly laughed. "Good job, Mason. He should have died a long time ago. Tomorrow, I'll take you to my father's grave to honor you." She comforted Mason and called her assistant. "Get in here, patch Ian up just enough to stop the bleeding. Then throw him into a dog crate at the old factory." My tears mixed with blood. I struggled to lift my hand to show her the amulet one last time. My heart was screaming, "I just want a sky burial. Can't you grant me even that?" I had mentioned I liked a supercar in a magazine. The next day, every multi-million-dollar car from that magazine was sitting in my garage. Scarlet herself was frugal, driving a modest SUV just to save for our future. But all I wanted was to die with a shred of dignity. Instead, her guards carried me out like a dead dog. As they passed Scarlet, my eyes burned like cold stars. My lips mouthed 3 words, "I hate you." Before she could process what I'd said, Mason cried out, "Scarlet, my side hurts from where I fell out of the car." "Let me massage it for you," Scarlet said, reaching under his shirt. My stab wound was only tightly bandaged, not stitched. Blood seeped out with every movement. Shivering in that dog crate outside, I thought, maybe tonight is finally the end. But in the middle of the night, A high-powered flashlight blinded me. I saw Arthur White, Scarlett's father. He was alive. Arthur poked my wound with a bamboo pole. Look at you, so pathetic. Didn't my daughter used to adore you? I gasped for air, trembling with rage. All my suffering was because of him, this gambler, this hypocrite. He hadn't just ruined my engagement. He had used me to fake his death and clear his debts. 2 birds with 1 stone. But a moment later, the cage door clicked open. Arthur stood there, hands on his hips. Fine, I can't let you die quite this miserably. I did raise you. After all, I clutched the amulet. Staring at him blankly, I tried to grab his sleeve, opening my palm to show him the amulet. My eyes pleaded, I'll take your secret to the grave. I won't bother your daughter, just let me go to the highlands. But Arthur tied ropes around both my ankles. At the ends of the ropes were 2 heavy stones. He snatched the amulet from my hand. He tossed it into a nearby drainage ditch. What is this junk? I'll let it join you in a minute. Good boy. Crippled and mute. So tragic. You should thank me for giving you a quick release today. With that, Arthur kicked the stones and me into the water. I sank rapidly as Arthur disappeared into the darkness. The freezing river water rushed into my wounds. I lost consciousness instantly. As my last breath left me, I saw a beam of light on the surface. Through that light, I saw Scarlett dive in, followed by several guards, swimming toward me. Seeing my head fall back and the bubbles stop, Scarlett grew desperate. She pressed her lips to mine, forcing air into my lungs. My last sensation underwater was Scarlett's warm, wet kiss. I suddenly regained consciousness and struggled, refusing her CPR. Scarlett's rage hit its peak. She roughly held the back of my head and blew air into me with force. She bit my lip in the process, and a cloud of blood swirled in the water like smoke. The guards finally cut the stones from my feet and pulled us up. I blacked out again from the near drowning. Scarlett was panting, her hair dripping wet. She glared at me, using her foot to press down on my chest to pump the water out of my lungs. Why are you so hell-bent on dying? You don't even appreciate being saved. What the hell is wrong with you? Seeing her anger, Mason quickly draped a coat over her and pulled her into his arms. Scarlett. He escaped the crate just to drown himself with stones. He doesn't want your help. Scarlett looked up, startled. I thought you arranged for him to be moved? Scarlett, how could you suspect me? Do you really think I'm that evil? Or is it that he's still more important to you than I am? Mason pouted, his voice full of innocent hurt and his eyes filling with tears. He turned to leave. Scarlett's heart softened. She pulled him back. Baby, I'm sorry, I won't see him again. Okay. Between the obedient Mason and the stubborn Scarlett's hatred for me only deepened. How dare I try to end my life? My life wasn't mine to take. It had belonged to her ever since I killed her father. Scarlett turned to Assistant Vance. Take him to the best hospital. Save him at all costs. Once he's stable, send him to prison for life. No more escapes. Vance's eyes darted around. He exchanged a secret look with Mason and gave a slight nod. The guards loaded me into the car. The resuscitation lasted a day and a night. Finally, I woke up. The metallic taste of blood was still in my mouth, reminding me of Scarlett's desperate kiss in the water. We hadn't been that intimate in 3 years, but in the 8 years we were together, we had kissed every day. Scarlett had grown up without a mother and was starved for affection. Once she knew she had my heart, she would cling to me all day, seeking security through physical closeness. She said she couldn't live without me, that she wanted to be like a koala, forever stuck to her tree, until death. But as my vision cleared, only the cold-faced Assistant Vance stood by my bed. He pulled out a letter. He unfolded it before me. Scarlett never wants to see you again. This is her personal letter. Read it yourself. I struggled to focus on the familiar handwriting. Every stroke was like a knife carving into my heart. And every day since you came back, I've wished you could feel my pain. If I had known you would kill my father, hurt Mason, and then try to kill yourself, I would have let you die in those tiger jaws years ago. After reading this, I suddenly started to laugh. I laughed until I choked, my breath fogging up the oxygen mask. Vance coldly threw the letter at my face. Go ahead. Tomorrow, Scarlett marries your cousin. She wants you dead tonight to appease her father's spirit. Vance couldn't look me in the eye as he began pulling out all my tubes. The ward door slammed shut. My laughter faded. Scarlett really wanted me dead. But if she wanted me dead, why did she save me from the river? Regardless, this was my last chance. I had to make it to the sky burial platform, even if it was the last thing I did. That night, during the nursing shift change, I crawled off the bed in agony. Blood trailed behind me on the floor. Using my own blood, I traced the word sky burial on the tiles. Didn't Scarlett want me to die in a tiger's jaws? Being consumed by vultures wasn't much different. It should make her happy. Maybe she'd finally grant me peace. After finishing the message, I leaned against the railing and dragged myself out of the hospital. My head was spinning, and my vision was blurred. Just as I went to hail a taxi, a foot stepped heavily onto my fingers, grinding them into the pavement. I slowly looked up to see Mason's innocent face. "Cousin, didn't Scarlett tell you to die in the hospital? A filthy person like you going to a sky burial? It would make her very angry. So, I wiped away your blood message." I tried to signal the taxi driver for help, but Mason pretended to be helpful and dragged me into the deserted underground garage. I backed away until I hit the wall. Trapped. Mason pulled out a knife. "Cousin, you're always running off. You're not being a good boy." He brought the knife down on my Achilles tendons, slicing them cleanly. Blood flowed into the drainage grate. I was drenched in sweat from the pain, but only a faint hiss escaped my lips. There were people and cars nearby, but no one knew that in this dark corner, my tendons were being severed again. Mason savored my agony. He finally spoke his mind after all these years. "Cousin, you were always the smart one. You had the rich stepfather and the beautiful fiancée. I was so jealous, but Scarlett's father never liked you. You were just the bastard, hitting on his daughter. He preferred someone obedient who could help him with his debts. Like me." I gritted my teeth, eyes wide with fury. So it was Mason who had manipulated Arthur White into kidnapping me. He had staged Arthur's death and then swooped in when Scarlett was most vulnerable to take both the woman and the fortune. I grabbed Mason's pant leg, my heart full of hatred but my body powerless. Mason gave a casual smile and shook me off. "See you in the next life, cousin." He raised the knife toward my throat. Just as he was about to strike, my phone rang. The sound echoed through the garage, drawing several people's attention. Panicked, Mason turned and fled. He disappeared behind the pillars. I exhaled in relief and struggled to answer the call. It was Seraphina Moon. "Hello, Ian, isn't your flight tomorrow? Do you need a ride?" I tapped on a metal pipe nearby, gasping for air. Suddenly, my strength left me. The phone slipped through the metal grate of the drain. "Are you there?" Seraphina asked frantically. There was no answer, only the mechanical voice of the garage's automated payment system. Seraphina wasted no time and mobilized her men. They searched every hospital garage until they found me. Hefted. Seraphina had her private medical team stabilize me while rushing me to the airport. She figured that if I didn't make it, she would at least fulfill my wish for a sky burial. After all, she owed me her life. But as we reached the airport, we ran into Scarlett's men, 30 guys in black suits. Assistant Vance barked orders. "Ian Rivers went missing last night," Mr. White said to finish him off. The security captain frowned. "I thought Ms. White wanted him handed over to the police?" Vance's jaw tightened. "She changed her mind. Do I need to clear every order with you? Since when are you my boss?" "I take orders from the Whites." Seeing them argue, Seraphina quickly pushed my wheelchair and the medical team around the back. She had called in some of her own club enforcers just in case. We finally made it to the boarding gate. Just as we were about to enter, Scarlett's guards spotted us. "There they are. Call the police." Guards swarmed the gate, blocking our path. Seraphina only had a few medical staff with her. Vance arrived and kicked my wheelchair over. I hit the floor with a thud, my head slamming against the tiles. I curled into a ball, shivering in pain. The scene drew a crowd. "Hey, why are you beating a disabled man? Where's the law?" someone shouted. But Vance immediately produced a wanted poster. "See this? He brutally murdered his stepfather. We're just helping the local authorities bring him to justice." The crowd's sympathy evaporated instantly. People began pointing and whispering. "Karma's a bitch. Serves that murderer right. Lock him up. Don't waste your pity on him." Cameras flashed as people took photos. Someone even threw a water bottle that hit my severed Achilles tendon. The bleeding started again. Seraphina was held back by guards, screaming in rage. "You're full of it. You're just taking advantage of the fact that he's a mute. Ian is a good man. Without him, I'd have been destroyed by those thugs. I don't believe for a second he's a killer." Her outburst stunned everyone, including me. I didn't even remember the incident she was talking about. I had stopped so many dirty deals in the business world, I'd lost track. But Seraphina's shouting bought us precious time as her enforcers finally arrived. Seraphina's enforcers locked horns with the guards. While street thugs were no match for professionals, the sheer chaos, combined with the airport staff's intervention, cleared a path to the gate. Seraphina rushed my wheelchair onto the plane. Assistant Vance was stopped at the security gate, unable to follow. He smashed his phone in a fit of rage. He had no idea how he'd explain this failure to Mason. But looking at my condition, he doubted I'd survive the flight anyway. On the plane, Serafina's medical team worked frantically. She had bought out every seat on the flight at 10 times the price just for me. She wasn't about to let me give up. Sky burial? Like hell. Life is worth living. Ian, but the lead medic suddenly shouted. We're losing him. The heart monitor let out a long, terrifying drone. The flatline. Ian, don't you dare die on me, Serafina screamed. She grabbed the doctor by the collar. These medics were on her private payroll. They had dark pasts and owed her their loyalty. Serafina had entered the business world at 18 and had been clawing her way up ever since. She had survived by holding leverage over both the underworld and the elite. To her, I was the only good person she had ever met, a bright moon she once felt unworthy to even touch. Now that the moon had fallen into a dark river, she was determined to pull it out. The doctor trembled. Ms. Moon. We haven't stopped. We're doing everything. Then do it faster. She shoved him back toward me. The plane flew through the night, and my heart stopped and started multiple times. Serafina's head felt like it was going to explode from the stress. If she had known Scarlet would torture me to this extent, she never would have let me leave the club that night. By dawn, as the plane prepared to land, my vitals finally stabilized, though they remained dangerously low. The lead doctor was exhausted. The environment in the Highlands is harsh. Miss Moon, I can't guarantee he'll make it. Serafina glared at him. If he doesn't wake up within 3 days, you're the one going on the sky burial platform. The doctor swallowed hard and fell silent. Meanwhile, in North Hill, Scarlet's wedding was the event of the century. Hundreds of cameras flashed as the elite toasted to the powerful female so. Scarlet stood at the center of the floral arch, her eyes glued to her phone, waiting for Vance's update. Mason pouted. Scarlet, people will think you don't love me if you keep looking at that. Scarlet sighed. I'm sorry. Baby, my father's killer escaped. How can I be at peace? She was genuinely confused. She only wanted me in prison. Why was I running so desperately? Mason acted offended. It's our wedding day, and you're thinking about another man. Scarlet looked at his innocent face and felt a pang of guilt. After all, Mason had been the one by her side during the hardest 3 years of her life. She put her phone away. But I won't let anything ruin this for you. Mason smiled like a sweet golden boy. That's better. But a second later, his smile froze. The security captain ran up, breathless. We failed. Ian Rivers made it onto a plane alive. Scarlet's bouquet hit the floor. What did you say? Alive? She roared, her eyes wide with fury. Who the hell told you to kill him? I said I wanted him in prison. That's all. The guest gasped, shocked by her sudden outburst of violence. The captain stammered. Wasn't that your order? Assistant Vance came crawling in, pushing the captain aside. Ms. White, don't listen to him. Ian eloped with Serafina Moon. They've clearly been sleeping together for a long time. Vance knew Scarlet well. She focused on results, not the process. He played on her jealousy. It worked. Scarlet began to shake with rage. A moment later, she slammed her high heel into Vance's face. He's running because you're hunting him. Who gave you the balls to play God with his life? She stomped on him until his nose shattered. Vance had forgotten one thing. Scarlet White was a results-oriented CO. But she was also a woman who loved me to the point of madness. Even with the blood debt between us, she couldn't bring herself to end me. The crowd was in an uproar. They had no idea the elegant Scarlet White could be this sadistic. Bleeding, Vance pointed a finger at Mason. Don't hit me. It was Mr. Cole's order. I had no choice. Scarlet turned slowly, her gaze darkening as she looked at Mason. Scarlet, do you really doubt me? Mason asked, his voice trembling. We're about to be married. Vance just misunderstood your orders and is trying to pin it on me. Vance had no proof, and Mason knew it, but Scarlet didn't trust anyone anymore. She pulled out her phone to contact her branch in the Highlands to intercept me. But a viral news clip caught her eye. In the video, Amanda was huddled on the ground, leaving a trail of blood from 2 severed Achilles tendons. The wounds were deep, exposing the bone. She remembered Mason leaving in the middle of the night and returning smelling of blood, with a Swiss Army knife wrapped in bloody tissues. Her skin crawled. She stared at innocent Mason with horror. She whispered, rip out his Achilles tendons. What? The guards were stunned by the brutality of the request. Guests screamed and trampled over each other to escape, terrified of the impending carnage. Scarlet repeated coldly, did I stutter? Mason collapsed to the floor. No, Scarlet. Please. His face turned as white as paper. No, stop. He begged for mercy. But the guards obeyed without hesitation. Mason's blood stained the wedding stage. It was a portrait of hell. Scarlet watched with a stone-cold expression. Mason's agonizing screams didn't move her at all. She realized then that she had never loved him, only I could make her heart feel anything. Just then, her Highlands branch called, "Ms. White." A body was just carried off that flight under a white sheet. Scarlett's world went black. Her body gave out, and she fell 3 meters off the stage. Losing consciousness, she was out for 2 full days. When she woke, Mason was holding her hand. His bed had been moved next to hers. Even though his tendons had been torn out, he acted like he didn't hate her. "Scarlett, you scared me. What would I do without you?" His face was bloodless, but his eyes still held that fake, innocent light. Scarlett felt a wave of nausea. She shoved his hand away and sat up. "Give it a rest, Mason. No matter how well you act, I'm never letting you go." She looked at his bandaged legs. Her rage flared again. She turned to the guard. "Who authorized his treatment?" The guard shivered. "The wedding incident is all over the news. Ma'am, your reputation is taking a hit. We had to treat him to save your public image." Scarlett grabbed a vase from the nightstand and smashed it against Mason's bandaged legs. "Bastard, Ian is dead. Why should you get to be comfortable?" Mason let out a guttural scream before blacking out from the pain. But Scarlett wasn't satisfied. She moved to strike the guard. But the captain stopped her. "Ms. White, calm down. We don't know for sure it was Mr. Rivers under that sheet." The vase slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. "Really? He might still be alive." Scarlett stood up, ignoring the glass shards cutting into her bare feet. "His life belongs to me. He doesn't have the right to die without my permission." She threw on her coat. "Let's go. We're leaving for the Highlands now." The guard said hesitantly, "There's something you need to see first." "What now? Speak," she snapped. The guard showed her a surveillance clip on his phone. "This is why he chose the Highlands. In the footage, I was covered in blood. I was crawling painfully, using my blood to write 2 words, sky burial." Scarlett covered her mouth in shock. She couldn't understand why I was so obsessed with death. A blurry memory flickered in the back of her mind, but she couldn't quite grasp it. Then, a new figure appeared in the video. Mason walked into the ward with a sinister grin and used his foot to wipe away my message. "Mason," Scarlett growled his name through gritted teeth, her voice dripping with venom. The medical staff who were about to take Mason into surgery backed away, terrified by the cold aura she projected. Scarlett gripped the edge of Mason's bed. She looked down at his handsome, serpent-like face and slapped him twice until he woke up. When Mason saw her, it was like he was looking at the Grim Reaper. He began to scream. "No surgery for him. No painkillers. No nurses. Let him rot in that bed," Scarlett commanded. The head nurse nodded fearfully. "Ma'am." Half an hour later, Scarlett was on a helicopter. She replayed every moment since my return in her head. Even if I was her enemy, I was the man she had once loved most. If Arthur had forced me to kill him in that criminal den, what choice did I really have? I was a mute now, and my hands were ruined. Wasn't that enough of a punishment? Why had she stayed with Mason and rubbed it in my face every day? And why was I so stubborn? Why hadn't I just begged for her mercy? She would have softened, but I chose the sky burial instead. Was I trying to make her suffer for the rest of her life? Even when she tried to send me to prison, it was out of fear that I'd kill myself. But Mason and Vance had manipulated everything, making me believe she really wanted me dead. Regret hit her like a tidal wave. For hours, she sobbed until her eyes were swollen. The helicopter landed near the temple. Scarlett stormed into the great hall and found the master. "Have you seen the man I came here with before?" The master said nothing. He simply turned and walked toward the back of the mountain. Scarlett followed him, her heart sinking with every step as she looked at the towering snow-capped peaks. Vultures circled above. She had a terrible premonition. "It's okay," she told herself. "Sky burials require an appointment. It takes time." They finally reached the summit, a flat platform of blood-red stone. Vultures landed there occasionally. Scarlett froze. This was the sky burial platform. Because of local customs, no photos of this place ever leaked. Seeing it in person sent a chill down her spine. The master bowed with his hands together, still silent. But his silence said everything. Scarlett couldn't bring herself to look at the scene, until something shiny caught her eye. It was an alloy prosthetic, clearly engraved with her name, Scarlett White, the knee replacement I had received after the tiger attack. The vultures had picked everything else clean, leaving only the cold metal behind. Where was the rest of me? My flesh? My bone? She looked at the vultures, and it felt like 1,000 arrows were piercing her heart. Scarlett collapsed next to the clean-licked alloy bone. She tried to pick it up, but she had no strength left. But why did he punish me like this? She realized I wanted her to never have a moment of peace again. I had been truly ruthless. She stared at the prosthetic as her memories finally unlocked. She remembered dressing as a Highland girl and telling me, "Ian, I'll love you until the snow on these mountains melts away. She remembered saying, death is like a falling whale, nourishing the world. If we grow old together, we must have a sky burial together. That way, our souls will never die. We'll never be apart. I had stroked her hair and kissed her forehead. It's a promise then, no backing out. It was a romantic, soulful vow, a pact of eternal love. I had believed in it my whole life, but Scarlet had forgotten. Her hatred had killed that love. She had forced a mute man to flee for his life and end up here, being torn apart by vultures. They say before a sky burial, the body is broken into pieces so the vultures can consume everything. The cleaner they eat, the purer the soul. Only the metal gift from Scarlet remained, perhaps the only filthy thing left of me. Was I lonely on my final journey? She wondered. Am I looking at her right now through the eyes of the vultures? Scarlet looked up at the vast, open sky and whispered to the birds, Ian, since you paid for my father's life with your own, I forgive you. She looked at the master with bloodshot eyes. Master, I want a sky burial too. Everyone I love is dead. Life has no meaning. The master shook his head. Seeker, the living cannot have a sky burial. Go home. His tone was final. Scarlet knew pleading was useless. She took off her heavy down jacket. She stripped off every piece of gold and silver jewelry she wore and threw them off the cliff. Then, without hesitation, she stepped toward the edge. If she fell and became a broken mess, the animals of the mountain would still consume her. She could join me. Just a few more steps and she'd be over the edge. The master wouldn't be fast enough to stop her. Suddenly, the security captain ran up with a stack of documents. Ms. White, so don't jump. Scarlet didn't seem to hear. She kept walking. She was an inch away from the drop. Ms. White, we have news about your father. She froze. With one foot hanging over the abyss, she turned. He was holding a photo. She stepped back and snatched it. It was him, truly him. Hadn't Ian killed him? With this news, her death wish was temporarily shelved. They rushed back to the helicopter. They headed straight for the border. Now that I was gone, her father was her only anchor. When they finally met, Scarlet dropped her bag. She threw her arms around him, but Arthur White recoiled in fear. Covering his head, he spoke in broken local dialect. Don't take me, don't take me. You have the wrong man. I have no money. He thought she was a debt collector. He was shaking. Scarlet shook him back. Dad, it's me. Through tears, she kept calling him until he finally recognized her. Scarlet, how did you find me? I thought you were dead. Why didn't you come home? She asked. Bewildered, Arthur's eyes darted around. I faked it. Just lucky to be alive, I guess. Scarlet's initial joy was replaced by deep suspicion. She looked him up and down. He supposedly stabbed you multiple times? Yet here you are, living it up in the red light district. Explain the debts. Now, Arthur couldn't look her in the eye. He knew what had happened to Mason. How Scarlet had literally flayed him. Mason was currently rotting in a bed with bedsores and infections, smelling of death. He was facing amputation. He had begged Arthur for help, but Arthur was too busy saving his own skin. Arthur tried to act tough. You brat, how dare you question me? You're only a seal because of me. Be happy I'm alive. That Ian kid stabbed me. He deserved to die. Scarlet's eyes widened. She caught the slip immediately. How do you know he's dead? Who told you? Arthur tried to backtrack. He had no voice and no tendons. Of course he's dead. Scarlet narrowed her eyes. His voice and tendons were taken after he supposedly killed you. How could you possibly know that? Arthur shut his mouth. He realized he was digging his own grave. Scarlet wasn't having it. Tie him up, she told the guards. Bring him back to North Hill for a full medical exam. They dragged him back. The results were in. Ms. White, as you suspected, your father doesn't have a single scar on him. Scarlet raised an eyebrow. No stab wounds? None, the guard said. However, he tested positive for advanced syphilis. Scarlet took a deep breath and pinched the bridge of her nose. She swept everything off her desk in a fit of rage. I believed that old bastard's theater. I thought Ian killed him, but he kidnapped and tortured Ian himself. And I was stupid enough to help him do it for 3 years. I tortured him until he saw death as his only escape. He died thinking I wanted him dead. I am so damn stupid. She sobbed into her hands. She didn't know how to process it. She had personally pushed the man she loved to his death. Then, the captain handed her a new file. We have the full confession. Scarlet read the transcript, and her blood turned to ice. She felt like a puppet whose strings had been cut. The mastermind behind everything was the innocent Mason Cole. He was the one who convinced the gambling addict Arthur to frame Ian as a murderer. It was the perfect plan. Scarlet would hate Ian, and Arthur's debts would vanish with his death. Mason had been working with Arthur the whole time, gaining Scarlet's trust, while Arthur was the one who tied the stones to Ian's feet to silence him. Mason is a monster, she whispered. Letting him rot is too good for him. Aren't his legs infested with maggots? Fine, I'll be merciful. Amputate them, the captain nodded, knowing better than to speak. And your father? Arthur must have heard them from the next room. He ran in, crying, Scarlett, I'm your father. I just didn't want Ian to ruin you. He was your brother. And he laid hands on you. It was a disgrace to my name. He's dead now anyway. Can't you just let it go for your own father? I can. Scarlett said firmly. She stared him down, refusing to let another tear fall. Hand him over to his creditors. Let them take his heart, his liver, whatever they want. This time, his death will actually clear the debt. No, have you no soul? Arthur grabbed her coat. If you hand me over, they'll kill me. Scarlett didn't listen. She pried his hands off, and the guards dragged him away. She was filled with a pure, cold hatred. She wanted to tear them apart, but on the surface, she remained calm. She told the doctor, the amputation for Mason. I'll do it myself. Bring me a chainsaw. This was her hospital. No one dared to argue. Half an hour later, Mason's blood-curdling screams echoed through the entire floor. Scarlett White, if you don't kill me today, I'll find a way to butcher you. The news of Scarlett's brutality spread like wildfire, reaching the Highlands and beyond. I tried to avoid it, but it was impossible. In my office at the top of a tech firm in the Highlands, I heard employees whispering in the break room. Did you hear? That female CEO from North Hill, she's keeping a pet and amputating him piece by piece. She's a total outlaw. She even sold her father's organs to his creditors. They say it's because her fiancé, her former stepbrother, was murdered by the two of them. Not even a bone was left. Before they could finish, a voice boomed from the doorway. Do you all have nothing better to do? Are the proposals done? It was my partner, Serafina Moon. As the angel investor and head of sales, her status was equal to mine, the technical brains behind the company. The outside noise vanished instantly as employees scurried back to their desks. Serafina entered, clutching a stack of orders and wearing a casual, triumphant smile. She had good news. Ian, our product is selling incredibly well. My mechanical, cold electronic voice responded. Thank you for the hard work, Serafina. I owe all this to you. I wore a mechanical ring on my finger. With a slight flick, it triggered a semiconductor device at the optimal vocal point on my neck. This was the portable electronic larynx I had developed myself. To an outsider, it looked like a sapphire set against my crisp white collar. Extending toward my neck, the device only added to my cold, aristocratic elegance. I could speak again, and I had regained about 70% of my physical mobility. Yet, seeing me struggle like this still made Serafina's heart ache. I could have had a brilliant future as a hands-on engineer and negotiator, but Scarlett White had destroyed that. She was still polluting the news with her presence, sickening me. Noticing the pity in Serafina's eyes, I closed my laptop. My electronic voice remained flat and emotionless. Shall we celebrate tonight? I'll host a feast at my place. Serafina nodded. Fine, we're going to eat you out of house and home. At dusk, Serafina brought the senior executives over. In my kitchen, automated cooking machines were dicing vegetables, and 8 culinary robots were working simultaneously, preparing dishes from all 8 major Chinese cuisines. The only things I prepared by hand were the steamed buns in the steamer. They were a hit. The foreign executives struggled clumsily with chopsticks. The faster they learned, the more they got to eat. But Serafina couldn't stop staring at me, finding me far more appealing than the food. After surviving the Highlands, I had insisted on leaving that alloy prosthetic engraved with Scarlett's name on the platform. I told myself, that version of me is dead. Later that night, Serafina and I went out for some air. I walked normally on flat ground, but on inclines, my shortened tendons would pull painfully. I nearly stumbled. Serafina caught me. She plucked up her courage and asked, Ian, have you ever thought about finding someone to take care of you? I stiffened and looked away, adjusting my mechanical ring. I don't want to be a burden to anyone. I can live well enough on my own. What if someone wants to be there? You're brilliant, Ian. You're not a burden. She pressed. I didn't answer. Suddenly, a figure appeared, the one person I hoped never to see again. But, hollowed out Scarlett White rushed forward, shoving Serafina's hand away to grab mine. Ian, brother Ian, she cried joyfully. I knew that new concept car was your design. You're alive. I knew it. Let's go home. Okay, I'll build you a company 10 times bigger than this. I yanked my hand back, my face filled with such revulsion that I wanted her to vanish on the spot. Then I noticed a figure flickering in her car. The door was open, and I could see my cousin, Mason. Mason's amputated legs were uneven, giving him a grotesque, lopsided look. He sat there like a corpse, eyes wide and vacant. He was now Scarlett's punching bag. She dragged him everywhere. If she was unhappy, he was tortured, beaten at best, further amputated at worst. While Scarlett still thought I was mute, I triggered my electronic larynx. "You're like a savage monster," I said coldly. "You disgust me." Scarlett froze at the sound of my voice. Then, tears flooded her eyes before she could even speak. She grabbed my arms, trembling. "Ian, you can talk, please. Curse me more. Just talk to me so I know this is real." I couldn't communicate with her, not even for a second. I pulled away and led Serafina into the house. Her cold silhouette receding into the distance. It was like one of her countless nightmares, unable to distinguish reality from delusion and overwhelmed by emotion. Scarlett suddenly fainted. Her guard caught her. "Mr. Rivers," the guard called out. "Please, can she come in for a bite? Her blood sugar is crashing. She could die." I paused and glanced back. Her guards and assistants always carried glucose. It wasn't my problem. I slammed the door shut. The guard carried her back to the car. Ms. White left in such a hurry she didn't bring anything. "Do any of you have sugar? Or food?" They all shook their heads. Only Mason, in the corner, let out a faint, imperceptible smirk. The guard captain cursed. "Let's drive back to the city. We can't let anything happen to her on our watch." But as the engine started, 2 medics stepped out with medical kits. Serafina followed them. "Let the doctors check her first. If she doesn't stabilize, take her to the hospital." After a glucose 4, Scarlett finally woke up. Seeing Serafina, her first question was, "Did Ian send you?" "No, don't flatter yourself." Serafina shot her a sharp look. "I'm just protecting our corporate image." Scarlett didn't believe her. "Impossible. He wouldn't let me die. He saved me from those tigers. Ian loves me." Serafina burst into laughter, her eyes like daggers. "I loved her. I once loved her. She wasn't wrong." Serafina pulled a letter from her pocket and slapped it against Scarlett's face. "Recognize this? Read it yourself." The guards moved to intercept Serafina, but Scarlett stopped them. She looked at the letter and said to Serafina, "I wrote this. Yes, but I was angry. I never actually wanted him to die. I just wanted him in prison." Serafina interrupted. "Does it matter? Does it matter what you meant to me? You already killed him once." Those words felt like a thunderclap in Scarlett's ears, causing her physical pain. No matter how she tortured Mason or her father, she couldn't erase the fact that she had personally driven me to my death. "I can change. Every day we're apart is agony. I'm taking the letter back. Please, tell him for me." "Okay." Scarlett was groveling now. Even knowing Serafina loved me, she had no one else to turn to. Serafina sneered. "Scarlett White, my life was reclaimed from hell itself. If you want to die, don't do it in front of us." With that, she slammed the car door shut. Scarlett screamed in the car, but no one listened. Only Mason smirked from the shadows. Scarlett fainted again and had to be rushed to the city hospital. She didn't wake until sunset the next day. Watching the sun go down, she felt abandoned by the world. In the past, I never let her spend a sunset alone, but even as she lay dying, I wouldn't even visit. She couldn't just sit there. Scarlett ripped out her 4, tearing her skin and sending blood spraying everywhere. The guards screamed for a doctor in English, but no one on the floor could stop her. I was just leaving work when a car I had personally designed screeched to a halt in front of me, followed by several police cruisers. Scarlett opened the door. She stumbled out and threw her arms around me. The driver's seat was a literal pool of blood. She was covered in it, and it soaked into my clothes. "Please, don't leave me," she gasped. The smell of fresh blood made me gag instantly. I was terrified of that smell. It brought back the shack in the tropics, Mason's knife cutting my tendons, and the removal of my prosthetic on the red stone. I never wanted to smell blood again. I gripped her with my mechanical hand, my electronic voice booming. "Get off." She could hear the pure hatred in my tone. I never hit women, but I was desperate. I kicked her away and ran toward my own car as if fleeing for my life. But Scarlett grabbed my ankle, screaming, "I won't let you go." My tendons were already stiff. Her lunging at me pushed them to the limit. I was tripped and fell hard. My face slammed against the stone steps, drawing blood. I struggled to stand, falling back several times. My own employees watched this pathetic display. Some even laughed. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Ian, I didn't know you were in this much pain." Scarlett reached out to help me, but the police arrived and slammed her against the wall, cuffing her. She kept looking back at me as I sat on the ground, unable to get up. I just sat there, silent. Eventually, Serafina arrived and helped me into the car. The more indifferent I acted, the more Scarlett's heart shattered. "Ian, I was wrong. I shouldn't have let Mason cut your tendons. I've made him a cripple. I'll find you the best doctors." She was hysterical, but the roar of my engine drowned her out. While the police were distracted by my limited edition supercar, she bit an officer's arm and bolted like an arrow toward my car. "Ian, don't go. I can't live without you. I'll die." Before the police could stop her, Scarlett was sucked under the wheels of my car. In an instant, her arm was crushed by the heavy tires. Her screams were muffled by the chassis. We definitely heard it, but Serafina and I, neither of us got out. The police and onlookers rushed to save her, bringing jacks to lift the car. The rescue took half an hour. I didn't even roll down the window to look. I appeared to be joking with Serafina, though my electronic voice lacked emotion. The back and forth with the smiling Serafina looked lively. So this was how it felt. When I was under that car years ago, listening to her and Mason, I must have thought they were together, but they weren't. She was just trying to spite me then, but it was too late. The more she had enjoyed torturing me, the more bitter this fruit tasted. Scarlett was finally pulled from under the car. As the jack was removed, Serafina floored it, leaving Scarlett behind, lying on a stretcher in agony. Amidst the curses of the foreign police, Scarlett closed her eyes. She actually hallucinated that my joking with Serafina was just an act to make her jealous, which meant I still loved her. That thought made her happy. She believed she could still win me back. Back home, I was still shaken. I wasn't a saint. I couldn't remain calm after such a suicidal confrontation. I feared this was only the beginning, but Serafina took my hand. Her warmth seeped into my cold fingers. "Ian, do you want me to stay with you?" I let out a dry laugh. I pulled my hand away, the cold returning. "I'm not a porcelain doll." "Serafina, I won't break." "But you already broke once," she whispered. "I worked so hard to put you back together." I pushed the car door open. "Enough, don't worry about it. I'm fine." I didn't want her worrying about my mess. She had a company to run. I was already a physical liability. I didn't want my private life to drag her down too. Serafina looked at me and said softly, "Ian, every day with you has been happier than my time in North Hill. You saved me from that shallow world. I'd follow you forever." With that, she drove off. I sighed. I couldn't handle that kind of love. In the middle of the night, I was tossing and turning over her words when my window rattled. Every robot in the house began chirping an alarm. I grabbed a taser. I hid behind the door, my heart pounding. I heard the click of high heels. Then Scarlett appeared. I didn't relax. Scarlett was more dangerous than any terrorist. "Get out, or I won't be responsible for what happens," I warned, raising the taser. My voice was icy. "Ian, don't be mad. I just came to explain one thing." Scarlett grabbed the end of the taser. She wasn't afraid. I didn't let go. Instead, I armed it. "I don't want to hear it. Leave. Don't make me shoot." "Wait." Scarlett showed me her phone. "These are my chats with Mason. He tried to have me so many times. I always said no. We never did anything. I still belong entirely to you." I thought she had something important to say, but it was just this nonsense. I rolled my eyes, suppressing my rage. "It has nothing to do with me. Get out." "Don't you have a responsibility to me?" she asked, trying to guilt-trip me. I was speechless for a long time. I already paid my responsibility to you with my life. Now, every time I think of being with you, I shake with fear. "Please, let me go." Scarlett bit her lip and turned away. Just as I thought she was leaving out of shame, she lunged at me. I was prepared and fired the taser. I missed by a millimeter. Scarlett tackled me onto the bed. With my stiff limbs, I couldn't fight her off. "Ian, you can only be mine." "That, Madam Serafina isn't worthy of you. Only I can be this close to you." Scarlett kissed my Adam's apple. She licked the area of my damaged vocal cords with mock tenderness. It was revolting. I slapped her hard. "Taking advantage of my disability only makes me hate you more." Scarlett suddenly snatched the sapphire device from my neck. My electronic voice cut out instantly. "It's okay. Ian, hate me. I just love you too much. I'm the only one who won't be disgusted by this body of yours." She pulled back my shirt. She began kissing me, leaving red marks across my chest. I was powerless to resist and couldn't even make a sound. It felt like that humiliating night years ago all over again. I struggled desperately until my hand brushed something under the pillow, something Serafina had left for me. Without hesitation, I pulled it out. I sprayed it directly into Scarlett's face. It was police-grade pepper spray, liquid devil chili, the best weapon against a predator. Scarlett's scream was inhuman. She couldn't open her eyes or find her bearings. I reattached my device. "Scarlett White, listen carefully. I don't need anyone's pity. I'm done with romance. I won't let you insult Serafina. I would rather die than touch you again. You make me sick." I threw the empty canister aside. It rolled across the floor. An AI butler robot arrived and began pushing the blinded Scarlett toward the door. Its toneless voice was a threat. "Please leave immediately. According to the Protection of Persons with Disabilities Act, police will arrive in 3 minutes." The robot's iron hands shoved Scarlet out, and she fell into the bushes in the garden. She was blind, her eyes swollen like walnuts from the pepper. She screamed into the night, "Ian, you won't get rid of me. I have 100 ways to make you change your mind." Hours passed. As the first light of dawn appeared, Scarlet was fuming. She planned to consult her guard captain, but then she saw a massive dog crate near my gate. In her blurred vision, it looked exactly like the one in that abandoned factory. Was Ian kept in a cage like this? She wondered. When Mason stabbed him and he had no medicine, how much did he suffer? He couldn't even make a sound. How trapped did he feel? Scarlet opened the cage. She stepped inside. She sat in the corner of the massive crate, smelling the animal stench and feeling the suffocating pressure. What was next? Right that day, her father had dragged me from the cage, tied stones to me, and thrown me in the river. Then she had saved me with that violent CPR, biting my lip. She had stepped on my chest to pump out the water. She had thought I was committing suicide. She couldn't even get out of this cage. How could I have believed Mason? She thought. She had to experience all of it. Only then would I see her sincerity. Scarlet called her guard captain. "Come to Ian's house, unlock this AI-controlled cage, tie stones to my feet, and throw me in the river." The captain was silent. "Ms. White, please. Let's stop this. Mr. Rivers wouldn't want this." "Did you forget what happened to Vance?" she snapped. "If you don't obey, you'll end up worse than him." The captain had no choice but to wake his men for a rescue mission. They had to pull her out just before she died. It was a high-stakes gamble, but they didn't realize the first step would be the hardest. The cage wasn't a normal one. It was connected to an animal protection AI system. An alarm soon echoed through the neighborhood. Neighbors woke up to see a woman in a dog cage, and a group of men in suits trying to smash it and tie stones to her feet. They looked at the scene like it was a freak show and called the police. I hadn't slept well because of her. When I walked out in the morning, bleary-eyed, I found myself the center of attention again. I watched as the guards lifted Scarlet, stones dangling from her feet, and carried her toward the lake. "Ms. White, are you sure about this? What if something goes wrong?" Before she could answer, her eyes met mine. She saw me standing there in my pajamas. Her hair was a mess, but her heart softened. She remembered how I loved wearing those silk pajamas, how cool and smooth they felt against her skin when she hugged me. She could never get enough of those hugs. Back then, I'd wear those silks while telling her bedtime stories, teasing her for being a dummy with her homework, or guiding her hand as she learned to draw. I had always been the golden boy, the genius. But now, she looked down and saw the long, ugly surgical scars on my wrists and ankles, the permanent marks of my disability. She had done this to me. It was all her fault. "Throw me in," she commanded the guard captain. "I want him to see my resolve. I want him to know I'm truly repenting. Don't rush to save me. Let me feel it for a while." The captain glanced at me, then nodded. "Understood." But Scarlet was tossed into the river. Onlookers screamed in disbelief. She began to sink into the icy, slushy water. She could swim well enough, but with stones tied to her feet and recent blood loss, panic set in. Wasn't this what I felt? She thought. She deserved to endure this, and more. Says, she was certain that with my deep love for her, I wouldn't just stand by. After all, she had once jumped in to save me, giving me mouth to mouth. But now, as she swallowed freezing water and felt weeds tangling in her nose, I didn't move. In the end, it was her loyal guard who fished her out. When she reached the shore, Scarlet's heart felt like lead. Shivering under a blanket, her lips purple, she looked around. I was nowhere to be seen. "Did Ian not even think about saving me?" she whispered, knowing the answer but clinging to hope. The captain remained silent. In truth, I hadn't even looked back. I had locked the door behind me. Scarlet nodded slowly, coughing up water. Even the guard captain felt a twinge of pity. "Ms. White, let's just go back home. You have a massive empire. There's no need to be this humble for a man who doesn't want you." Scarlet's eyes suddenly lit up. "I have money. If he doesn't care about me, he must care about money. I'll buy him back." She liquidated her assets, moved billions of dollars overseas through gray channels, and began buying up small firms. She funneled investments into my name. Serafina, who had been facing a capital shortfall, rushed into my office with the news. I frowned. This money felt suspicious. "We should be careful," I warned. Serafina showed me the paperwork. Everything looked clean, but my gut was twisting. No CEO turns down expansion. I moved fast, building a dozen new factories and running them day and night. I took over the upstream supply chain to control raw materials and slash costs. A year later, Our company's valuation skyrocketed. Serafina and I were now among the top 100 on the Forbes list, the rising stars of the industry. Everyone was talking about the genius engineer and his Iron Lady partner. After an awards ceremony, we planned a dinner for our 7 angel investors. I was dressed to the nines. The suit accentuated my refined, tech-augmented elegance. My mechanical hand and electronic voice only added to the cyborg chic charm. Serafina, in a sharp red dress, looked equally formidable. We looked like the ultimate power couple, but when the doors opened, it wasn't the investors. It was my nightmare, Scarlet White. She was skin and bone now, flanked by 7 bodyguards, each holding a shareholding agreement. I was speechless. I felt the familiar bile of trauma rising. Serafina squeezed my hand. Let's go. If we can't be friends with partners, we'll just talk business. But the guards blocked us. Scarlet sneered and roughly pried Serafina's hand off mine. I spent billions for Ian. Not for you. She snapped, suppressing my rage. I pulled Serafina behind me. What do you want, Scarlet? I asked. To marry you. She said simply, marry me. And all this money is my dowry. It all becomes yours. She looked at me with eyes full of a terrifying, suffocating love. Not in a million years, I said, pulling Serafina out of the room. Scarlet's face contorted as she watched our matching silhouettes disappear. The next day, Scarlet called a board meeting and invited the media. She was acting on her own, disgusting both me and Serafina. She took the center seat. I'm not here to interfere with operations, she told the cameras. Ian Rivers will always helm this company, because he is my husband. We were childhood sweethearts. Our wedding is tomorrow. You're all invited. The room exploded. Flashes blinded us. The internet went into a frenzy. Weren't Ian and Serafina a couple? Who is this billion-dollar sugar mommy? A disabled man being fought over by 2 beauties? What's his secret? Just as everyone expected me to be moved by her grand gesture, I stood up. My electronic voice was icy. As of this moment, I officially resign as CEO and Chief Technical Engineer. I walked out under the barrage of flashes. Before the crowd could process that, Serafina stood up too. I also resign. She ran out to catch up with me. She helped me walk away, leaving Scarlet alone on a stage built for 3. Scarlet's mental state was already fragile. She snapped. She grabbed a chair and smashed a camera. Stop filming, but that only made the flashes faster. She became hysterical, screaming into the lenses, as long as I don't accept his resignation, he can't leave. He will never escape me. The next day, I went to the office to pack my things. I paused at the door. I looked back at everything Serafina and I had built. When we were broke, we painted these walls ourselves and cleaned every pane of glass. I remembered the joy of our first order. We had raised this company like a child, but we were leaving it to a monster. I closed my eyes and turned to leave, but Scarlet blocked my path. Why do you have to leave? If you don't want to marry me, Fine, just stay and work. I'll be happy just seeing you every day. The tyrant from yesterday was now a pleading lamb. The remaining staff watched the drama unfold. I treated her like a plague, walking in a wide circle around her. Scarlet clenched her fists, but her resolve lasted only seconds. She chased me down. Ian, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have interfered with your company. It's all my fault. You stay. Believe, please. I acted as if I were deaf. I put my box in the passenger seat. As I moved to the driver's side, she sprinted to the front of the car, spreading her arms wide against the hood. Ian, you want to humiliate me in front of your staff? I'll do it for you. Slap. She struck herself across the face so hard her hair flew wild. She looked ridiculous, but my eyes remained like stagnant water. No pity, no emotion. Seeing that her self-harm didn't move me, she began slapping herself repeatedly. I finally moved. I got out and grabbed her wrist to stop her. Scarlet's eyes welled up instantly. You still care. You can't stand to see me hurt? Right. I shoved her hand away and let out a cold laugh. Care? I'm just tired of your acting. Scarlet, when I was a mute being framed, you didn't believe me. When I couldn't afford a burial and was being insulted by thugs, you stepped on me. Now you show up with billions to play the dominant CEO and pretend you're the victim? This game is boring. Scarlet shook her head frantically. I'm not acting. I want you back. I don't need you. I'm going to start over somewhere you'll never find me. I looked up at the employees watching from the windows. Does anyone want to come with me? Without me and Serafina, this company is a hollow shell. They were stunned. They knew I was the engine and Serafina was the fuel. One engineer raised his hand. I'm coming with you. Then a second. Then a third. Hands of all colors and nationalities were raised from every floor. 70% of the key staff chose to follow me. Scarlett was speechless. Ian, she hissed. If you won't accept my love, fine, but you're gutting my company on your way out? You hate me that much? I raised an eyebrow. I win. Checkmate. I gave my loyal staff a thumbs up and drove away. Scarlett was left defeated. She walked into the empty building, watching people pack their desks. A small group of sycophants rushed to her. Ms. White. We're loyal. Let those traitors go. You still have us. Scarlett looked at them. The lazy, the incompetent, the dead weight. We were going to fire anyway. Get out. She whispered. Get the hell out. All of you. Useless trash. She clutched her head. She couldn't understand how it came to this. She had given me everything, and yet she had lost everything. If only she had trusted my character from the start. If only she hadn't faked her father's death and had actually cared for me. The building was empty now, just scrap paper and footprints. Then a group of police officers walked in. Ms. White, you're under arrest for illegal foreign exchange trading, money laundering, and illegal detention. As they cuffed her, Mason rolled in on his wheelchair, or rather, what was left of him. He was just a torso and 2 stumps now. He was grinning. Sister, you were so busy chasing Ian that you forgot me in that factory. It hurt my feelings, so I called the police for you. You're not mad, are you? Mason, you rabid dog, Scarlett screamed. I'll see you in hell. Before she could finish, a black hood was thrown over her head, and she was shoved into a police car. In detention, Scarlett suffered. The inmates were predators. The cell boss, a convicted murderer, stepped on Scarlett's face. Oh, the big entrepreneur. You're the one who liked amputating people piece by piece, right? The one who used her stinking money to force her mute ex to love her? You're a disgrace to women. Who are you calling a mute? I'll kill you, Scarlett roared. She struggled, but they held her down and urinated on her face. What? You don't like it? You humiliated him and cheated on him, and we can't call him a mute? Everyone knows your dirty laundry. Scarlett spat out the foul liquid, her face covered in filth. She wanted to skin them alive, but she was pinned down, just as I had been when my tendons were cut. She realized then, she deserved this. She thought she understood my pain, but she hadn't felt a tenth of it. As long as she was whole, she had no right to claim empathy. So she decided she could do one last thing for me. A few days later, she called her lawyer. Her face was bruised, and her mouth had been burned with hot oil by inmates. Her speech was slurred, but still clearer than my silence had been. The public defender despised her. He didn't plan on giving her a real defense. But then, Scarlett spoke. I want to confess. I have evidence of Mason Cole's attempted murders. I want to clear Ian Rivers' name. The lawyer looked up. He was shocked that at her lowest point, she was only thinking of me, regardless of how many years it would add to her sentence. Scarlett sat there, the light gone from her eyes. She didn't care about the judgment. She just wanted me to be okay. The lawyer sat up straight, his tone softening. I'll pass on your request, but you and Mr. Rivers, even thousands of miles apart, you're both looking out for each other. Scarlett's eyes flickered. What do you mean? The lawyer whispered. To get your sentence reduced? Ian Rivers surrendered all his assets to the state to cover your debts and fines, and then some, billions of dollars. Because of him, you'll be out in a few years. Scarlett covered her mouth, her laughter echoing through the room. Really? Even back in her cell, her heart soared. He still cares. He hasn't forgotten me. With that belief, Scarlett endured everything. She knelt to please the cell boss. She worked harder than anyone on the assembly line. She assembled umbrellas faster. She worked the sewing machine until her fingers bled. She believed if she suffered as I had, when she got out, I'd take her back. We'd have a grand wedding. We'd have children. But Mason wasn't so lucky. His sentence was long, and he couldn't handle the psychological toll of his condition. He died miserably in prison. 3 years later, Scarlett walked out of prison into the sunlight. Mason was gone. Her father was gone. She felt hopeful. She wanted to find me immediately, but she needed money for a ticket and living expenses. As an ex-con, opportunities were scarce. She worked herself to the bone. Delivery, cleaning, designated driving. It took her a year to save enough. She flew to country A. In her mind, as long as I loved her, this suffering was nothing. But the world had changed. My new company was a global titan. She arrived at the HQ with a burlap sack. At the gate, a robot stopped her. Its blue eyes scanned her. Scarlett's hair was gray, and she looked decades older than she was. But she spoke in a perfect British accent. I'm here for Ian Rivers. I'm his wife. He's been waiting for me to get out. The robot scanned her face. I'm sorry, you are not the lady of the house. Of course I am. She dropped her sack and tried to shove past the machine. Let me see Ian. You're just a bucket of bolts. Employees began leaving for the day. A few recognized her and began to whisper, "Isn't this the former Snow White? Heavens, how did she get so old?" Scarlet ignored the cruel whispers, her heart racing with anticipation. She wiped her nose and let out a manic laugh. "See, people still recognize me. Tell them, am I not the one Ian has been waiting for all these years? I got out of prison early just to give him a surprise." The employees covered their mouths to hide their smirks. "It's been 3 years. Why are you still dreaming? Don't you look down on me?" Scarlet roared. "No matter what I look like, Ian will only ever love me." Before her voice could fade, a voice echoed behind her. "Is that so?" The tone was so familiar it made her blood run cold. It was my voice. Not the mechanical drone, but my true voice from before the tragedy, warm, melodic, and full of life. Turned, and there I was, after all this time. My electronic larynx was now an invisible implant, undetectable unless someone was inches away. It simulated my original voice perfectly. My limbs moved with fluid grace. The clunkiness of my disability was gone. "Brother Ian," Scarlet sobbed, lunging to embrace me. To her, I was once again the dazzling, prideful young man she used to adore. But to the onlookers, it looked like a deranged beggar attacking a prince. The aging, haggard Scarlet looked grotesque next to my youthful, handsome self. I pushed her away with cold efficiency. "Why are you still following me? Scarlet, you're like a piece of filth, something people step on and feel disgusted by." Scarlet had long since lost any sense of shame. She clung to my sleeve, wailing, "No, you can't mean that. You gave up all your wealth to the state just to get me out, didn't you? Stop lying to yourself. You love me. We can finally be together again." I let out a laugh of pure disbelief. I brushed the dust from her touch off my bespoke suit. "That was the state's money. Returning it was my duty. It had nothing to do with you. Even if it reduced your sentence, I wouldn't feel a shred of joy. I'd rather you had died in there." Scarlet shook her head violently. "No. That's not true." She couldn't accept it. If I was this heartless, what was the point of her suffering in prison? What was the point of working like a slave to find me? She refused to believe it. But as she tried to grab me again, Serafina arrived. A nanny followed her, pushing a baby stroller. Serafina didn't even give Scarlet a second glance. Instead, she took my arm and gave me a light kiss. "Ready to go to the market? Darling, I need to pick up some formula and diapers for our daughter." The sweet, genuine smile touched my lips. "Of course, let's buy some fresh ingredients too. I'll cook for you tonight." I gave her a playful, loving look. Seeing this domestic bliss, the last string of sanity in Scarlet's mind snapped. She stumbled back. She let out 2 hollow, haunting laughs before collapsing onto her burlap sack. Her mental pillar had crumbled. She began to foam at the mouth, muttering broken words. "I deserve this. Repentance is useless. And I've lost you forever. No one will ever forgive me. No one." An ambulance took her away. But Scarlet White drew her last breath before they reached the hospital. For her, perhaps this was mercy. Living in a state of inescapable, eternal agony would have been far more terrifying than death itself. In the end, out of respect for our childhood together, I arranged for her remains to be returned to our homeland. If Scarlet's sinful soul was to find any redemption, it could only be through returning to nature. After all, had been her wish. I took her to the sky burial platform. I watched as the vultures consumed her flesh and blood, carrying her spirit into the clouds. I pressed my palms together and recited a prayer for the dead. Just as the Master had taught me, we had once promised to undergo this ritual together, to enter the next life side by side. But now, I was merely the one seeing her off. Our entanglement was over, in this life, and for all eternity.